Hail, and welcome back to my channel. So another entry today in Magickal Systems. Today I'm going to be discussing the creation of servitors. Servitors are a little bit of a controversial topic for some people. I personally don't quite understand why, because I, kind of enjoy working with them, partially because it is a very creative process. But I'm just basically going to give you a relatively brief video here to give you some basic instructions on what a servitor is, why you should or should not create one, and any pitfalls, cautions, warnings, and lastly, of course, how you are going to be able to create one. So, first off, what is a servitor? I would personally, in my experience, and I say that for a reason because not everybody is fully in agreement with each other or with what a servitor exactly is. And so I'm going to give you my definition and interpretation of what a servitor is. A servitor to me is a basically semi-conscious but not self-aware energetic construct. So what that means is basically the difference between I don't know, like a VI and an AI. All right, so an artificial intelligence or an AI would be something that is capable of learning on its own, which in my experiences, a lot of servitors are. They are, however, not aware that they are, separate beings, if that makes sense. Because I mean, if you want to get real existential, like how do you define a person? So I don't want to get very existential in this video because it's about servitors and not about philosophy, even though I very much enjoy engaging in philosophical discussions. But a VI is something that has a pre-programmed, so it's a virtual intelligence, all right? It's a pre-programmed program that has a certain set of responses to a certain set of things. And these things, these VI, are usually not capable of learning on their own. That is kind of what an energetic construct, minus the servitor aspect, minus the learning aspect, would be, in my opinion and experience. So an energetic construct does what it is programmed to do, the end. And it will not really learn or adapt or develop some kind of self-awareness. Now, a servitor is created with the intent of achieving a certain goal, just like the VI or the energetic construct is, but it is capable of adapting in order to achieve its goal, which means that it is a being or construct that is capable of developing awareness of outside factors that are helping and or hindering their particular assignments, which means that they are capable of gathering new knowledge, which means that they are capable of learning and adapting, which may eventually result in questions being asked, which may result in them becoming self-aware. So this is what a servitor is to me. Now, I have servitors. I have had one become self-aware. I have a couple servitors, most of them who are not self-aware, but they do understand that there are, things outside of themselves. They understand that they are here, as it were, from my interactions with them, but they still don't quite seem to recognize that they have that they can exert their will, that is not my will, on the outside world if they so chose. So basically, if you want to have a goal accomplished, and you tell a servitor to go do that, they will go do that, and they will use their learning and adaptability to achieve the goal in the best possible way, or the quickest way if you program them in such a manner. So that is a bit of background on what I mean with a servitor versus an energetic construct. So the next topic would be, and by the way, I'm completely doing this without a script. I'm kind of just winging this from the top of my head. But how would you use a servitor? What would you use a servitor for? Well, the goals for which you could use a servitor are pretty much endless. You could use a servitor to provide an aura of happiness around you. For example, you could create a lantern that shines like positivity and happiness. It radiates happiness. It radiates an aura of joy, of bliss, of stuff like that. You could have a I don't know, like a servitor in the image of your ideal spouse follow you around in order to attract a suitable partner. You could have a servitor that is designed like a knight in like late medieval plate armor or something like that. In this case, you could use it as a sort of bodyguard against intruders, against energetic, spiritual beings who may want to fuck with you. You can even have them chase off unwanted human beings if you so desire. Um, you could create a servitor to help you attract wealth or money or recognition or stuff like that. And what you would do is you would create them and then you would give them their assignment and you say, hey, listen, this is what I want from you and this is what I want accomplished. Go out and do it. And sometimes they don't achieve their purpose because they're not infallible beings. They may encounter resistance, and then they may return to you unsuccessfully. Sometimes they do succeed. Just like any other spirit, there's always a possibility for failure. That's one thing that I do want to say. Um, they're not flawless beings, just like spirits are, just like you and me. Um, and there are, of course, always opposing forces. So that is what you do need to understand when you start working with these kinds of beings. But the advantages of servitors are that a servitor will, unless it develops self-awareness, of course, unquestioningly do what you ask it to. All right, so it will just find ways to do what you want it to do. So, yeah. Um, the disadvantages, of course, that servitors, because they don't really have the experiences that a spirit does, uh, while they are capable of adapting, that first requires failure. So they may take longer to succeed, and they may take just longer to achieve the goal, longer to adapt to things because they are, in essence, new beings that have to learn. And the only knowledge that they basically have may be the knowledge that you programmed into them or that you gave them in their creation, as it were. So that is, the possibilities of servitors. Um, Now, how does one create a servitor? The processes that you could use for creating servitors are pretty much endless. I will give you one possible manner in which you can do it. A lot of people like to use sigils. I personally, because I'm an artist, like to literally create them by drawing them. Now, if you want to work with sigils, this is easily found online. This information is easily found online. Um, you just replace everything I talk about art, just replace it with sigils. All right. So look up how to create a sigil for a servitor, and all the rest of the information in this video still applies to you and to your servitor. So how I would do it is I would take a piece of paper and I would draw a being. And after I draw this being out, I create, and by the way, this is not my art. This is not mine. This is my roommate's father's painting. So it's not my art. I don't do this kind of thing. But just saying. But so you create a servitor possibly by making a drawing and designing it in such a manner that they somehow represent the aim for which they are created in how they look. Again, as I mentioned earlier, for example, if you have a servitor for protection, you may want to deck them out in full plate armor. All right, so you have like a late medieval Gothic German full plate armor dude just following you around, and he swings a big, Zweihander, and he basically protects you against unwanted spirits, entities, people, and then you draw this person out. You draw them in that plate armor. You give them that weapon, and you then give them a name. So you write the name under the drawing that you made, and you sit down. You create a ritual space for yourself. Just you do your regular ritual stuff. You basically record. No, you basically just sit there. You focus on the paint or on the drawing or whatever you do, the painting or the drawing or whatever. Um, Hell, you could even do this with pictures of people or objects that you find online. For example, if you want, I don't know, your servitor to look like an actress or actor, or that you find very attractive to, help you find love, you can do that. You can just take their picture and just, you know, create the servitor like that. That is possible. But basically, you're just going to sit there. You create a ritual space. You make sure that you're focused and concentrated and calm, and you're going to intently, in your third eye, in your mind's eye, you're going to visualize that this being is actually in front of you. Okay, you're going to visualize that they're actually in front of you, and you're going to focus on this so intently that it almost becomes real, because it should, because you're creating a being. So if that doesn't immediately work, that's okay. Don't worry, I'm getting to that part. You're going to focus on this for a good, I'd say, 20-30 minutes, all right? You're going to focus on this being that you either created or that you got a picture of or whatever. And it doesn't really matter what it looks like, but again, I would advise you to give it a look that is practical for the assignment. For example, if you have a need or desire for a protection servitor, you do not want to have the servitor be created in the image of a duck, okay? Because a duck is not going to be very good at protecting you from shit, because all it's going to do is like bite and peck at things, instead of having this knight figure with a big two-handed sword swinging at people's heads. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be a little practical. You don't want a servitor that is unattractive to you help you draw in, like, the right kind of love for you or stuff like that. So that is something you want to keep in mind, because it needs to be able to give you a focus point for, creating this being. So you're sitting there for a good 20-30 minutes in your ritual space. You're focusing on this, and you are intently visualizing. You're maybe even constantly repeating and chanting their name. And if you're using sigils, you're going to focus on the sigil. Or you could even create a combination. You could even do the sigil and the drawing method or something like that. And it doesn't even, by the way, if you're not a great artist, you don't know how to draw realistically, as long as you draw something that will remind you of what you see in your head, you can still visualize the realistic looking image, but the drawing will just basically be your focal point, if that makes sense. So you're having a shitty drawing maybe, but if you can, from this shitty drawing, infer what you are actually wanting to appear, then that's fine. That is not an issue. The Servitor is not going to look like the shitty drawing you made if you if you are worried about that. As long as you focus on what you see in your mind, that drawing is just going to be a reference, as it were. It doesn't have to be perfect. So, and let's face it, very few art is actually perfect, and who wants perfect art, because perfect art's kind of boring. So, you do that, you sit there for 20-30 minutes, you focus on that so intently, and then after that, you end the ritual, you come down, you're gonna likely feel exceptionally tired after that. If you did it well, you're gonna feel tired. All right. If you don't feel tired, you didn't do it well. You gotta put in a lot of energy to create a servitor like that. That is going to be a respectably powerful enough to carry out the assignments that you're going to give them. You're going to have to be a little tired. So you do this for at least, I'd say, 3-4 days for a respectably empowered servitor. So for 20-30 minutes every day, maybe every night, make sure that there's at least roughly 24 hours in between every time you do it. Make sure that you take plenty of rest. Make sure that you eat properly. Make sure that you are drinking properly, that you replenish your body's fuel, that you remain grounded while you do these rituals, by the way. As always, that should actually go without saying. If you're at least intermediately familiar with the metaphysical, you should know that that is a thing that you should be doing anyway. So day 2, you do the exact same thing. You repeat the exact same process, 20-30 minutes. Maybe you have a candle that you've lit. Maybe you have some incense burning. You have your ritual circle or whatever, and you're sitting there and you're focusing on this focal point, and you're closing your eyes, or you're even keeping your eyes open. Some people actually recommend that you keep your eyes open. I personally don't really care what you do, because if visualizing it in your third eye helps you better, then so be it. I would actually suggest a combination of the two, where the final day you do it with your eyes open, because then you're kind of saying, you are so real to me now that you are physically in front of me and I can now see you. Whereas before, you want to mostly focus on putting your energy in and channeling your essence. So that is something that you may want to play with a little bit and see what works for you. And yeah, that is something you want to repeat for at least 3-4 days. Day 3, you do the same thing, 20-30 minutes, light a candle, light some incense, focus on it. And keep in mind that the longer you do this, so if you do this for 2 weeks straight, you're going to have a pretty damn powerful servitor, all right? You're going to have a pretty damn powerful servitor. I'm not sure if I would recommend it, especially if you're not used to working with these kinds of beings, because you do need to make sure that they stay in line. You don't want to have them go rogue, but we will discuss that in a minute. So during the rituals, you're going to also assign them personalities. You're going to assign them traits that they need to be good at, that they need to be focused on. You're going to, for example, say, okay, so this guy in late medieval armor, you're going to be my protector, you're going to be stoic, you're going to be stalwart, you're going to be aggressive when need be, you're going to be fearless, and you're going to deter anybody that tries to attack me, stuff like that, all right? And you're basically going to repeat this and visualize this in your mind as you're focusing on this image of this being that you are creating every day, that you are that you are basically empowering the servitor. Yeah, it's a little bit of a repetitive process. I'm aware of that, but I mean, the end result is, in my opinion, pretty worth it. So you're going to give them all these traits, and what you also will want to do is you may want to build in, if you are only wanting the servitor to be temporary, you want to build in death parameters, which may mean that they quote-unquote energetically self-destruct once they achieve their goal. Now, of course, if you are making a protection servitor, you may just want to keep them around, but that is up to you. I will say that there are stories of people's servitors going rogue, which means that they start harassing people, which means that they start fucking with people, which means that they may start stealing energy from you. And that is stuff that you want to avoid, in which case you will want to destroy them um, or set them free. But that is up to you. Um, you know, so that is up to you, and you may want to, yeah, that is entirely up to you, but it is your responsibility. You did create this being. Um, Literally, def parameters should probably be built in while you are creating them, and you all you literally need to do in that case is literally say, um, I am going to speak this particular word, and it could be a bullshit word that you just made up in your head. Just write it down, and you're going to be repeating, once I speak this word with intent, um, so with the intent of destroying the servitor, once I speak this word with intent of destroying the servitor, this servitor is going to self-destruct. And some people may not be comfortable with it. Some people may prefer to have things as is. And again, that is your responsibility. If these things go haywire, if they go rogue, yeah, that is something that yeah, that you need to be prepared for. I do think it is safer to build in like a no like a self-destruct kind of sequence, or like a destruction sequence, just in the off chance that they may go rogue. Because yes, it is possible. Like I said, I have had one servitor go from, well, being not self-aware to being self-aware. I have not had a problem with them. They are actually still with me. I have not noticed any sort of negativity that they're like draining me of energy, or that they're like stealing energy from people around me, or anything of the sort. So it's not that big of a deal all the time. But again, precautions should probably be taken. But I am going to leave that up to you. It is not my responsibility if you create a servitor and that it fucked up. I have hereby warned you to the potential downsides of this particular, method of magic, of this branch of magic. I personally do greatly enjoy creating servitors because they allow me to, exercise a lot of creativity and a lot of, fun, really. So yeah, that's that. And yes, in case you were wondering, yes, it is possible to create a servitor that you can use for sexual gratification, for those of you that are interested in such, things. Personally, I'd rather have a sentient spirit and or physical spouse for that, to that end. But if you are okay with that, yes, it is possible to have a lover servitor who may or may not eventually end up developing self-awareness. So keep in mind that servitors are going to be created partially from your energy. This is usually not dangerous in any way, shape, or form. However, please do be aware that you will from time to time have to feed your servitor, which may literally mean that you are giving them a small portion of your energy, which by the way is not permanent. It will obviously regenerate itself. But you do have to basically pay some quote unquote upkeep, if you will, for having the servitor around. So if you are somehow not comfortable with that, please keep in mind that if you have spirits bound to you, if you have spirits working with you as you maybe conjured or something like that, they too require energy, especially if they are spirits that are in your quote-unquote employment. You're going to have to pay them wages. You're going to have to pay them wages in terms of energy and stuff like that as well, which usually isn't that much, I've found, but that depends on the spirit. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on how scrupulous or unscrupulous they are in what they want from you. So these are all things you should be considering. Um, yeah. So what to do when a servitor develops self-awareness, and how do they develop self-awareness? Well, um, like I said, I've only had it happen once, and I have not had a problem with this. I mean, I have heard of people who literally just had servitors start fucking with them, start stealing their energy, start harassing their family members, their spouses, their whatever, and these beings just kind of go a little crazy because they don't quite know what to do with their existence. They don't really know beyond the parameters that you had originally established. Um, they don't really know what to do with their existence because they had this task. They're now aware that they're beings, and in essence, they kind of are becoming like synthetic souls almost. So they basically, yeah, they have an existential crisis. That is apparently a possibility. Again, I've personally never experienced this, so I can't really um, speak from experience with this. But this is what I've heard. This is what I've read about, and in those cases, maybe it is. Yeah, it is a philosophical, ethical, and moral debate at that point. I mean, they are self-aware. You have created them. Are you still responsible for them when they develop self-awareness, or you know, is it their responsibility to find their purpose in life and learn not to like harm other people without proper uh, legitimacy in their reasoning behind harming other people? Obviously, this is something that I will leave up to your discretion. Some would say that, well, if they're going a little berserk anyway, it might be more ethical to terminate them. But again, there is the counter argument of they have developed self-awareness. So if they have developed self-awareness, that means that they're now an individual person, which means that they now have free will, which means that is it ethical? Would it be the same thing as killing, for example, a human being? Because a servitor is an astral construct. It lives on the astral plane. It is technically alive, just not in the physical. So, that is something that you should be considering. It's not something that you can just do for shits and giggles. It is something that you want to put some thought behind, as it were. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this topic. You know, um, it's a basic rundown. I'm again not going to go into the whole philosophical, ethical debate on what you should be doing or what not, or really even what I think, because I do think it is your responsibility as a practitioner to, handle shit when it comes your way. Um, I just put out the info, and what you do with the info is not really my problem, unless you start making it my problem. But yeah, it's you know what I'm saying. I don't really feel that you should be taking this lightly, and at the same time, I'm also not a fan of restricting knowledge or certain practices because they could theoretically be dangerous. I mean, everything in magic could theoretically be dangerous. So that is all I have to say about that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Hail.